Fiona Appleton slid open the glass door to her small grooming salon, Four Paws Spa, at precisely 8 in the morning. The early May sunshine pooled on the tiled reception floor, and the hush of Hazel Haven's quiet streets insinuated that she could expect a typical day of wash, trim, and fluff. She flipped on the lights, careful not to wake Nala, her golden retriever, who snoozed contentedly in her personal sleeping nook near the counter. Though Fiona's business remained modest, she felt immense pride in the reputation she had built. Hazel Haven's residents trusted her devoted care of their cherished pets. On any given morning, a menagerie of wagging tails traipsed through her door for grooming appointments. The well-connected, from city officials to local shopkeepers, often chose her, knowing that her gentle approach and eye for detail left their dogs looking elegant and more at ease with the grooming process. And so when Fiona's phone dinged with a text informing her of 2 last-minute appointments from the Tea Garden family that day, she welcomed the business without hesitation. The Tea Gardens, known for their ancestral mansion perched on the outskirts of Hazel Haven, were not the type to mingle frequently with townsfolk. Each time their dogs arrived at Four Paws Spa, they came neatly packed with instructions in elaborate script, accompanied by an expensive bag of dog shampoo, custom-tailored outfits for each dog, and the strict requirement that Fiona keep them photo-ready. That morning, as Fiona prepared her grooming table, she remembered the previous appointment with the Tea Garden dogs. Something about it had nagged at her for days. 7-year-old Winslow, an elegant Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, arrived with a mysterious black pouch hidden under his blanket. While unpacking Winslow's accessories, Fiona discovered a small cassette tape inside the pouch, labelled with nothing but a scribbled letter T. She thought it might have been a personal voice note from a veterinarian or something. But the moment she set it aside to ask about it, the driver who had dropped off Winslow became more standoffish, retrieving the tape and stashing it away with an icy glance, as though Fiona had stumbled on something she wasn't meant to see. She had done her best to forget the incident, reasoning that everyone had personal matters and she was not one to snoop, or so she told herself. Yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that more lay behind that tape than she first realized. At precisely 9 o'clock, her shop bell jingled, announcing the arrival of the Tea Garden driver, a tall, gaunt man. He guided 2 dogs inside, Winslow again and a perky Bichon Frise named Missy. Both trotted in with the regal bearing that the Tea Gardens no doubt instilled in them. While Fiona prepared to greet them, the driver hastily handed her an envelope containing the day's instructions. He left almost immediately, pausing only to say, "Madam Teagarden requests you pay careful attention to Mrs. Curly Coat. It's grown quite frizzy. She wants it to look perfect." As soon as he was gone, Fiona patted the dogs' heads and led them to the back. Missy came with a bag of grooming supplies, and Winslow wore a plush lavender vest for what looked like an upcoming photo shoot. Fiona examined Mrs. Bag, curious to see if there was anything unusual. The shampoo and grain-free treats were standard issue, but a small black object slipped from between towels. It looked suspiciously like another tape, this time labelled B. Squatting so the dogs wouldn't overhear her alarmed gasp, Fiona held it up to the light. It matched the style of the tape she had seen in Winslow's bag previously. She opened the envelope containing the day's instructions, only to find that the instructions were the usual bullet list. Wash thoroughly, ensure nails are clipped, groom the tail to be especially fluffy. But in the middle of these instructions was a puzzling insertion, scribbled in a hurried hand. "Don't let them out of your sight. Return everything in the bag." It struck Fiona as more than a little paranoid. She tucked the tape back into the bag exactly where she found it, her mind buzzing with speculation. Why were these tapes hidden amongst grooming supplies? Who was T.B., or perhaps more letters to come? She decided to groom the dogs as instructed, making sure they left with every item that came in. Yet she couldn't quell her curiosity. The signs pointed toward something more than personal logs or family keepsakes. After all, who would keep tapes like this in a dog's grooming bag, and why insist on returning them with such secrecy? Fiona tried busying herself with the actual task at hand. Missy's curly locks needed careful shaping. She massaged the bichon's shoulders, letting the soapy water work wonders on her coat. Missy looked downright blissful. Meanwhile, Winslow seemed equally content resting on a heated pet bed in the corner while waiting his turn. For a few minutes, Fiona allowed herself to revel in the tranquil atmosphere. She had chosen her career because nothing made her happier than dogs wagging tails and satisfied expressions. Yet that moment of calm ended abruptly when the back door of her shop flew open. In the doorway stood Addison Beecher, the most energetic of Hazel Haven's local reporters. Addison was in her mid-30s, known for her bright red hair, flair for dramatic headlines, and unstoppable curiosity. "Fiona, sorry to barge in," Addison said, slightly out of breath. "I couldn't wait at the front. The door was unlocked, so I just came through. I have to ask, have you heard any rumors about blackmail tapes, probably stashed or delivered in unusual ways? I got this lead from an anonymous tip, and it's the strangest thing." Alarmed, Fiona placed a towel over Missy, who blinked up at Addison in confusion. "Addison, you can't storm in on me mid-groom," Fiona scolded lightly. "Can you at least let me get these pups back to their owners before you start dropping bombshell questions?" Addison's tone was hushed, but excitement glimmered in her eyes. "I'm sorry, but there's talk around town about secret cassette tapes being used in blackmail. People say they're being circulated in hush-hush ways, like hidden in flower pots, behind photos in frames, and maybe even among dog grooming items. It's a bizarre rumor, so I had to see if you've heard or seen anything." Fiona shook her head at Addison's usual methods. "Wouldn't you do better to track down leads discreetly? You can't just burst in here." Addison clasped her hands apologetically. I know, but I had to get the story before any of those out-of-town journalists do. Listen, if you see or hear anything, please let me know. I'll owe you a favor." Although Fiona felt a prickling sense of alarm, she decided her best move was to feign ignorance. Addison was a good friend, but the last thing Fiona wanted was for rumors to spiral and for her business to receive negative attention. "I'll let you know if I see anything," she promised, ushering Addison to the front door. As soon as Addison left, Fiona leaned against the door, her heart fluttering. She glanced at the dogs, waiting patiently, the black tape labeled B tucked away in Missy's grooming bag. Addison's inquiry was more than coincidental. Was blackmail indeed the culprit behind these tapes? Fiona told herself she had no reason to risk interfering yet. Curiosity, that ever-lingering nibble at the back of her thoughts, wouldn't let her ignore the situation. Once the dogs were primped and blow-dried to perfection, she gathered Missy's and Winslow's accessories, carefully placing the tape back where she had found it. The tea garden driver returned late that afternoon of his own accord, praising the dogs' gleaming coats as he prepared to escort them home. That night, Fiona sat in her cozy living room, sharing a meal of reheated tomato soup and a grilled cheese sandwich with her cat Clementine perched on the windowsill. Despite her determination not to meddle in the personal affairs of her clients, she couldn't chase away the images of those tapes. She wondered if blackmail was truly in motion, and if she was inadvertently involved. The following week, the Tea Gardens booked another appointment, this time sending a new puppy, Dot, a timid miniature poodle, accompanied by old Winslow again. The set of instructions arrived, concluding with the same odd note: "Don't let them out of your sight. Return everything in the bag." Upon unzipping Dot's bag of grooming tools, Fiona saw yet another tape labelled with the letter M. This one was unusual enough to jolt her. M wasn't even close to T or B. Just how many tapes were collecting in the Tea Garden household? Midway through Dot's grooming, Fiona noticed a figure passing by the salon's front window for the third time in less than an hour. Addison Beecher again, clearly trying to peer in. Fiona let out a groan and decided enough was enough. She toweled Dot dry and stationed the puppy behind the counter while she marched outside to confront the reporter. "What are you doing?" Fiona asked sharply. "If you keep skulking around, you're going to scare my clients off. I told you I'd let you know if I see anything." Addison's eyes shone with fervour. "I'm sorry, Fiona, but I caught wind that the Tea Gardens might be at the heart of all this. Word is they've been meeting privately with the mayor. Speculation is that incriminating tapes exist, threatening to compromise both the Tea Garden estate and city leadership. Don't you see how big this is?" Fiona sighed, lowering her voice. "All right, just calm down. Let me do my job. If I find anything substantial, you'll be the first to know, but I don't want you spooking my customers." With reluctance, Addison conceded and left, strolling down the street with her pen and notepad at the ready. Fiona wondered how Addison had gathered so many clues. She also realized that Addison was risking a lot. If the blackmail was real, the Tea Gardens and their associates were likely influential enough to fight back. By the time Dot and Winslow's appointments wrapped up, Fiona managed to slip a closer look at this newest tape. She found the label M scrawled in a shaky hand, with part of the writing worn away. Compelled by near desperation for clarity, she placed the tape against her ear, shaking it lightly to confirm it held actual recorded material, but she dared not play it in the open. Too risky. When the driver returned to pick up Dot and Winslow, Fiona asked, point blank, "What's with all these tapes?" He stiffened. "Ma'am, I'm only here to ferry the dogs." His face was stone, betraying nothing. Before she could press further, he dropped an envelope on the counter. "Your payment? Good day." With that, he and the dogs disappeared down the sidewalk. Fiona's curiosity had reached a tipping point. She locked up her shop, told Nala to stay, and prepared to do some investigating of her own. She made her way to Hazel Haven's modest library, suspecting the old card catalogue and local archives might provide a clue about the Tea Garden family's history or notable events that could connect to blackmail. Inside the library, she was greeted with a warm smile by Mariella, the head librarian, who wore a purple cardigan and reading glasses perched on the tip of her nose. "Fiona, how nice to see you," Mariella said quietly, mindful of the library's hush. Fiona lowered her voice in turn. "Mariella, do you have any old archives on the Tea Garden family? I'm looking for interesting facts that might help me with—" "Well, it's about their dogs, actually." Mariella nodded, leading Fiona to a corner of the library filled with dusty boxes of local news clippings, genealogical records and property deeds. "Go through the boxes labelled T for Tea Garden. Got a feeling that's your best bet." Fiona thanked her and sifted through the trove of records, scanning headlines from old newspapers. She found mention of a scandal 30 years prior involving Gregory Teagarden, father of the current matriarch Madeline Teagarden. Rumours circulated about hush money paid to keep damaging revelations under wraps. The articles were vague, but they suggested there had once been tapes recordings of phone calls, perhaps, that threatened to tarnish the Tea Garden's impeccable reputation. Local gossip soared at the time, before the family swiftly clamped down on any further revelations. When Fiona emerged from her reading, the puzzle pieces in her mind began to snap together. Someone, likely a blackmailer, was distributing new tapes referencing an old scandal. The presence of T, B, M, and potentially other letters might represent different sets of recordings, and for some reason they were being transferred in an innocuous way, hidden in the personal effects of dogs to avoid detection. But who was delivering these tapes to the dog's groomer of all places, and why? Fiona realized the blackmailer might be using her shop as a subtle handoff point. Or perhaps the Tea Gardens themselves were orchestrating the distribution. She left the library feeling uneasy, but more determined to solve the riddle. That evening, Fiona received a text from Addison. "Meet me at the cafe. I have new info." An hour later, they huddled in a corner booth at Hazel Bean Coffee, sipping herbal tea. Addison flipped open her notebook, scanning her own scribbles. "I found out the mayor had a suspicious meeting with Madeline Teagarden last night. Could be forging an alliance or cutting a secret deal. Meanwhile, I've confirmed the tapes indeed contain age-old phone call recordings, but also new material about current real estate deals. They're definitely blackmail fodder. And rumour is there's a ringleader who's forcing the tea gardens to distribute them to certain power players. But the question is, who? Fiona leaned over Addison's notepad. Why stash them with the dogs? Addison's eyebrows rose. Well, dogs are often overlooked, treated as benign. It's the perfect courier method. Nobody suspects a pet. I imagine the blackmailer insisted the tea gardens distribute them in ways that would go undetected. Except they didn't count on a curious groomer one who'd noticed the tapes. Addison grinned, patting Fiona's arm. That's exactly why I came to you. They parted ways soon after. Walking home, Fiona realized that the tea gardens might themselves be victims under the blackmailer's instructions, forced to stash these incriminating tapes wherever they were told. Maybe the blackmailer threatened to release even more damaging evidence if they didn't comply. The next morning, 2 more tea garden dogs arrived, an aging Dalmatian named Rupee and a sprightly Yorkshire Terrier named Jack. The driver again handed Fiona an envelope with the usual instructions plus the cryptic note. Sure enough, upon a quick rummage, she found another cassette tape hidden among the grooming tools, missing a label this time. Instead, a piece of Scotch tape was stuck to its side, scrawled with a single letter V. Something new appeared in the bag too, a folded slip of paper containing a phone number. Fiona's heart leapt. She waited until the driver was gone and quickly pocketed the paper. If it belonged to the blackmailer, or if it led to someone inside the tea garden family who needed help, either way it was a priceless lead. That afternoon, she dialed the number from her personal cell phone, using the privacy of her living room after closing the shop. With Nala curled at her feet, Fiona listened to the phone ringing on the other end. A male voice answered after a few rings. He sounded slightly out of breath and tentative. Hello? Fiona swallowed. Hello, my name is Fiona Appleton. I found this number among some dog grooming items. I'm trying to figure out if you need help. There was a pause, then a breathy sigh. Who gave you this number? I'm a dog groomer for the tea gardens, she replied carefully. I think we might have a mutual concern about certain cassette tape. The voice exhaled again. I see. Listen carefully. You have to stay out of this. It's bigger than you. Don't you realize you could be in danger snooping around? Word is that the blackmailer doesn't hesitate to silence meddlers. Fiona bristled at the warning. But I am in the middle of it, whether I like it or not. The tapes keep coming through my shop. If you want to help, maybe we can figure this out together. A tense silence. Meet me behind the old fruit stand in Hazel Haven's farmer's market around 7 tonight. We'll talk. And for your own safety, don't mention this to anyone else. If the blackmailer catches wind that you're prying, it won't end well. The line clicked. Fiona obsessed over the words in danger. She thought about Addison, about the tea gardens, and about how naive she might be plunging headfirst into a blackmail scandal. But her mind was set. If she didn't intervene, who would? That evening, drizzling rain pattered gently against the deserted wooden stands of the farmer's market. Fiona found the old fruit stand, a structure with a faded sign advertising apples at 50 cents a pound. A single overhead lamp buzzed as a figure stepped from the shadows. It was the tea garden driver, wearing a trench coat over his uniform. He introduced himself as Rowan. I'm not just a driver, I'm Madeline Teagarden's nephew, he confessed, voice low to keep the conversation private. I don't approve of these blackmail methods, but my aunt says it's the only way to protect our family. The blackmailer has threatened to leak recordings that could destroy Madeline, the mayor, and half the city council for shady land deals. My aunt is forced to distribute these tapes as a twisted message. Either do what the blackmailer wants, vote on certain policies, sign over certain rights, or risk the tapes being played for the public. His eyes were haunted. My aunt tries to ensure each tape lands in the hands of officials who have a stake in the scandal. If they comply, they receive another tape, with instructions on how to keep it hidden. If they disobey, the tapes get exposed. The dogs became an easy courier method. Who'd suspect them? Fiona's voice wavered. But you realize it's not sustainable. The blackmailer will never be satisfied. Who is it? Rowan shook his head. We don't know. We only get instructions via phone calls or anonymous letters. We suspect it's someone with insider knowledge, maybe on the city council or an ex-employee who had access to old mansion archives. What about these letters on the tapes? TBMV. One idea. They might represent initials of names or aspects of each power player. T for the mayor's treasurer, B for the Board of Commerce, M for the mayor, V for the vice mayor. But we're guessing, he swallowed. Look, Miss Appleton, you'd be wise to back off. Fiona shook her head. I can't. I've been drawn into this, and Addison Beecher's close to the story too. She's on the verge of making this public. Rowan winced. If the blackmailer thinks the press is onto them, they'll accelerate their plan. That could mean releasing everything in one devastating blow. It could bring down many innocent people too. Yet we can't keep paying hush money forever, Fiona suggested. What if we set a trap? You know, a bait situation where we persuade the blackmailer to meet somewhere, expecting they'll receive something, but we record them instead. If we gather proof of the blackmailer's identity, you and your aunt can go to the authorities on your own terms. Rowan considered it. It's risky, but maybe it's worth a shot. I can pass a message along claiming that I have additional evidence that the blackmailer really wants some digital copies of the tapes that we supposedly discovered. That might lure them into the open. They hashed out a plan. Rowan would contact the blackmailer, offering the alleged digital copies for an in-person exchange. Meanwhile, Fiona would inform Addison discreetly, so she could tip off the local police. If all went smoothly, they'd unmask the blackmailer and put an end to the scheme once and for all. A few days later, Rowan texted Fiona. They took the bait. Meeting at the closed hardware store, 10 p.m. tomorrow. Get Addison. Make sure police are ready. With her heart pounding, Fiona joined Addison at a side street near the hardware store. Addison had pulled in a favor from her friend in the local police department, a detective named Marcia Gilmore, who arrived in a nondescript car with 2 uniformed officers. Across the street, Rowan stood in the shadows, clutching an envelope stuffed with blank flash drives made to look like digital copies. 10 o'clock approached. The street lay deserted, the hardware store dark. A single figure emerged from behind a parked car. Detective Gilmore tensed, readying her approach. Rowan stepped forward, envelope extended. Then the mysterious figure raised an arm. An overhead street lamp revealed their face. It was none other than the town clerk, Paula, known for her mild manner and unassuming presence at City Hall. You have the digital copies? She demanded, her voice tight. I told Madeline to deliver them to me directly, Rowan said. Aunt Madeline is busy. She sent me. Now, call off your blackmail, or we hand all these tapes to the authorities. It ends tonight. Paula's face contorted with fury. Your aunt has no idea the lengths I went to, collecting those old phone recordings. She and the mayor conspired to cheat my family out of our property. I lost everything when that shady land deal forced my parents to sell at a fraction of its value. This is the only way to bring them down or get restitution. She lunged forward as if to snatch the envelope from Rowan's grasp. But in an instant, Detective Gilmore and the other officers stepped into the light, guns raised. Paula Mosley, you're under arrest for blackmail and extortion, the detective declared. Shocked, Paula hesitated a moment too long, allowing the police to secure her hands behind her back. The cassette tapes she carried in her coat pocket fell to the ground, labelled with carefully lettered initials. As the officers led Paula away, Addison's eyes shone with both relief and the gleam of a big story. Fiona finally allowed the tension to ease from her shoulders. The blackmailer had been caught, the tapes seized, and hopefully Hazel Haven could return to some semblance of normal. The next morning, Rowan came to Four Paw Spa, carrying no dogs but wearing a grateful smile. "Thank you," he said. "We couldn't have done it without you. The tapes are evidence now, so I'm not sure what skeletons will come spilling out. But at least Aunt Madeline and the rest of the family can try to address it openly, even if it means facing consequences for their old misdeeds." Fiona nodded. Best to come clean. But I'm just glad no harm came to the dogs. Nor to anyone else. Rowan chuckled softly. The dogs have no clue they were embroiled in a scandal. They'll just be happy to get pampered next time, without carrying contraband. When Rowan left, Fiona found Addison waiting outside. The reporter dashed up in a flurry, brandishing fresh headlines. The blackmailer was arrested thanks to a local groomer exposing the scheme. Addison read with delight. "I've framed you as the unassuming hero. Hope you don't mind a little spotlight." The last thing Fiona wanted was attention that might spook her more delicate Cleve, but Addison seemed set on a triumphant narrative. Fiona smiled gently. "It's all right, Addison. At least the town will know the truth, and hopefully no more secret tapes in my grooming bags." She turned the sign on her door to open, welcoming that day's clients. Already, a golden dachshund with a bounding gait was tugging his owner toward the salon for a scheduled groom. Fiona bent down, greeting him with a pat. Life in Hazel Haven would continue, now relieved that underhanded blackmail wasn't lurking in unsuspecting corners. As she led the exuberant dachshund to the grooming station, the hum of her clippers felt reassuringly normal. In that moment, Fiona promised herself she'd keep her eyes and ears open for future mysteries, especially if they came in the guise of wagging tails and unsuspecting whimpers. But for now, she was content to indulge in a warm sense of accomplishment. After all, she was a dog groomer at heart, and that meant tending to all manner of tangled fur and unexpected secrets, gently teasing out the knots until the end was tidy and free.